Thank you, Adam. I'm going to use this mic. David, are you going to use this mic?
Nope, I'm going to project with my voice.
I think you should use the mic.
I will use the mic.
Okay, sounds good. So I'm Michael. This is David.
Hello.
Try not to confuse us. We are DMC Law. We're missing another member of our team, but she's in the office working, and we're here eating delicious food. That's why I came. Why did you come?
I came here for the food.
Yeah, okay. So that's what we look like. As you can see, 2 out of 3 not bad looking. All right. What you need: get educated, protect yourself at all times, and make or save the most money. All right? That's what you're going to need throughout your careers. So, first website, to get educated. David, you want to explain what this is all about?
So this is a main website where we have tons and tons of free information up there for all of you guys to learn from. We've got about 400 plus articles and blogs we've written. It's also a way to get our ebook on Ontario dental law, plus videos like the one we're making today.
Actually, if you guys want a free copy of our ebook, Ontario Dental Law, it's 274 pages. It's going to tell you everything that we know as lawyers for free. Just add your name to the sign-up sheet that's going around. Okay. On our website, we've also got the articles that I publish in Ontario Dentist and Oral Health Office. You can download those for free and also see some of the news that we get from time to time. And you can also keep up to date on some of the traveling that we do, our dental destination courses. What about Jamaica? Who's been to Jamaica? Yes, we've got some people to Jamaica. Okay, great. We're going to talk more about Jamaica later, right, David?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Second website. What's this one all about, David?
Dentist Legal Forums. So essentially, here's a place where we took our collective knowledge, managed to turn it into technology, and provide legal forms for dentists that you can do yourself through some easy fill-in-the-blank answers on a website and really get legal services at a fraction of the price.
Mm-hmm. And it always comes with lawyer review, so we'll make sure you guys don't screw up. Okay, and our last website, Dental Place, is our new venture. What's this one all about, David?
So this one's good both for newer dentists and older dentists. It's a place where dentists can list their practices for sale. And if anyone here, for example, is looking to purchase a dental practice, here's one of the avenues you can look to find one. It's essentially a listing service for dental practices.
Okay, so 3 websites to be checking out on your phones, hopefully not during class. Okay, we're going to talk to you guys briefly about associate agreements, and then we're going to talk about marketing, and then we're going to talk about 10 things we wish we knew before we started working. Okay, associate agreements. We've brought 2 fake associate agreements that we've drafted. David, do you want to hand these out? And just have a look at these associate agreements that we've drafted, because most likely if you are going to start associating a principal dentist is going to throw something your way, and you're probably going to think it's written in gibberish, legal mumbo jumbo, but there's significant ramifications to signing these things, so you should understand what they're all about. So the first question, do you need to sign an associate agreement, or can you just start working? What do you think? Okay. Anybody, do you think that a verbal agreement is good enough? It's enforceable, it's legal, or does it have to be in writing? David, what's the answer?
The answer is what half the class said and not the other half of the class.
Okay, which half was right?
You do not need to have an associate agreement written down on paper for it to be legal and enforceable.
Okay. Interesting, right? What about remuneration? Well, what's the going rate for an associate in the GTA?
$1 million.
What's the going rate? What do you guys get paid? You guys have probably heard what you get paid. What is it? 40%. Has anybody heard of anything higher? No. Chris, you've heard of something higher? Not in the What about outside the GTA? 50. Yep. So there's a range there. What about buying in? Associates, I mean, you're going to start working at a practice. The principal is getting on in age, and you're thinking, wow, can we put something in the contract that allows me to buy the practice? How many of you guys would like that? The option to buy, yeah. Some of you would like it. How many of you think that principals would actually give it to you? No. Have you ever seen one before, David, for a new associate?
No, it's extremely, extremely rare.
Very rare. Okay. What about terminating the agreement? Okay, you want to leave, or the principal wants to get rid of you. So the associate agreement is going to deal with all of the different ways that the relationship can end. But importantly, it's what happens after the agreement is terminated. because there's going to be things called restrictive covenants, non-competes, non-solicits, and there could also be things in there like penalties, right, where you have to pay a big chunk of money if you did something wrong, like violate a restrictive covenant. So if you started to solicit or you started to compete across the street, we've seen agreements say, guess what, if you do this, you have to pay us $50,000, $100,000, and the associate will come to us and say, is that legal? And we'll say, did you sign it? Did you understand what it was all about? So just be careful. Now, a word about penalties. David, is a straight-up penalty going to be legal and enforceable by a court?
No. In Ontario, the courts do not enforce penalty clauses in contracts.
So what would they enforce?
They would enforce something known as a genuine pre-estimate of damages. So if you were to actually put in the contract that if A happens, you would pay B, it has to be based on something more tangible and realistic for it to be enforceable.
Right. So if you agree in a contract to pay damages that the principal would have, could have, should have experienced, guess what? You're on the hook for that. If it's just a penalty and you agree to be penalized for $50,000, that is not going to be enforceable. Okay. What about restrictive covenants? Non-solicits. Don't solicit my patients after you leave. Don't solicit my staff. Don't solicit my referring dentists. Are those legal and enforceable? If you violate them, can you be held accountable? What do you guys think? Non-solicits. Yes. Yes? David, what's the answer to almost every question in law?
Ask Michael. No, the answer to most every question in law is it depends. And a lot of it depends on the context.
Right. So what kinds of things would lawyers and judges be looking at to determine if a non-solicit is legal and enforceable?
Are you still asking me?
I am asking you, yes.
Could you have accomplished the same restriction through another avenue?
Things like, how reasonable is the clause? Is it fair? Is it there to protect the principal's true interests? Can it be justified? If we've seen non-competes, and now we're switching to a different type of restrictive covenant in Toronto, where the principal says, you know what, if you leave, I don't want you to be able to compete within a 20-kilometer radius of this practice. I think that would be right now. What about up north? What about, like, Dryden? Would that make more sense? Or, yeah, it could work out there. It really depends on the circumstances of each case. Now, interestingly enough, if there is no agreement, we've already said that the relationship can still be legal and enforceable, even if there is no contract. But you, as the associate, can you leave and set up shop across the street, take copies of patient records with you, take staff with you, and advertise generally? Is that legal for you to do if there is no associate agreement in writing? What do you think? Who said yes?
A few people.
I see a lone wolf. She's out on the ledge all by herself. No one's going to support her. Why do you think it's legal? She's eating. We'll just wait for her. Okay, so why do you think it's okay? Because there's no contract? So if it wasn't discussed, if it's not in writing, an associate can do all of these things. And you know what? She's absolutely right. Courts have held in those circumstances where an associate treats patients exclusively, they're entitled to copies of the patient's records. Staff can leave as long as they give proper notice to the principal, and they can advertise generally if there's no non-compete and non-solicit. However, this is the more important part, okay? Are non-competes legal at all in the context of you guys as new associates? What do you think? There seems to be a power imbalance, right? You spent all that time and money in school, you came out, you graduated, now you're forced to sign this agreement that says you won't compete within 5 kilometers of this place if you leave. And let's say you work there for 3 months. Do you think a court would hold that against you? Does that seem fair? Does that seem reasonable? So there was a case, and in that case, a new associate signed this one-page napkin and basically had a restrictive covenant, like 5 kilometers in 3 years, you can't compete, and left, set up shop across the street, got sued, matter went to court, a little napkin appears in front of the judge, and the judge says, you know what, there's a power imbalance here. We're not going to enforce this non-compete because a non-solicit would have sufficed. So in the context of new grads, okay, coming out, or you guys coming out and working, it's highly unlikely in Ontario that a court would enforce a non-compete. Now that's different from when a dentist sells their practice, gets a whole boatload of money, and the dentist is asked not to compete across the street because there's a kind of a balance of power between the person purchasing and the person selling. So in your situation, there's a power imbalance. That's why courts are reluctant to enforce those types of clauses. Okay, associate agreement tips. Look like an independent contractor. Okay, so you're going to sign an agreement, and most likely, I'm going to say 100% of the time, it's going to say you're an independent contractor, right? Here's the problem. If you're an employee and not an independent contractor, and you go to file your taxes, okay, you're going to get hit, maybe, if the CRA decides to audit you, if you, in fact, look and smell and feel like an employee instead of an independent contractor. So what is the difference between being an employee and being an independent contractor? Okay, because you all know you're going to be asked to sign documents that say you're an independent contractor. But the Canada Revenue Agency doesn't care about what the document says. It's the reality of the situation that matters. Okay? So think of it like this. You're going to go up. You're going to sign this document. It says you're an independent contractor. Okay? And what is an independent contractor? How do they get taxed? Well, they get taxed preferentially because you're like your own business. You get all these tax write-offs. You can make more money or lose money. It's tax advantageous for you, tax advantageous for the principal. However, if you're just an employee, you're there 9 to 5 on the principal's schedule, using their tools, working on their patients, and you have little or no say on anything, guess what? All those tax benefits, out the door. If you spent money and time incorporating to save on more taxes, you won't get it. CRA will disregard that because the reality of the situation is what counts. Does that make sense? So if you're going to be an independent contractor, make sure the reality matches what the agreement says. Work for multiple principals. Have your own patients. Buy your own handpieces. Have a corporation. Have business cards. Have a website. Truly look like an independent contractor so you don't get dinged on the taxes. We have yet to hear about the CRA coming after associates for looking like employees. The risk still exists, and they use multiple factors to determine whether you're an employee or an independent contractor. But some of the things I mentioned would help make you look more like an independent contractor, right? Having a truly independent business, working for multiple principals, having a corporation, a website, business cards, having your own patients. Do those things and you will have a fighting chance if you ever get audited.
Pick up a Saturday morning shift once a month, for example, at another practice. Right. Buy a couple things for yourself.
So you're going to be given agreements, and they may have non-competes and non-solicits in them. We suggest that, although you already know non-competes are unlikely to be enforceable, make sure that they're as reasonable as possible. Yep, question in the back.
For how long are they not likely to be enforceable? Is it just like a new grad 1 year window, or is that just in general?
So the courts have said in that case, which happened over a decade ago, and it's been re-emphasized over and over again, that unless there are exceptional circumstances to justify the non-compete, which there haven't been, a non-solicit would have sufficed, and we won't even enforce, in this context, the non-compete. Okay, so it's been like this for a while. It doesn't mean that they don't end up in your agreements. They probably will. It doesn't mean that the principal won't try to rely on them and threaten you. They probably will. They'll drag you through court, but at the end of the day, there is case law to support the idea that they're not enforceable at this juncture. Yeah, question?
I think it's still understanding how a non-solicit would have sufficed if by non-solicit you still wouldn't be able, how would it be set up anyways in prosecution if you're still soliciting patients?
You can solicit patients generally, just not the principal's patients.
The difference is, can you work to put clothes on your back, food on your plate, a roof over your head, and provide for yourself and your family? A non-compete says, essentially, you can't work in this area. A non-solicit says, you could work, you just can't do something for your to do something that affects the principal. There's a difference. You can still work. And I think that's where the two are reconciled.
Watch out for damages or penalty clauses. We try to remove them or mitigate them. Chart fees, another form of penalty. If you solicit and it turns out that a patient comes to you and leaves the principal, you may be on the hook, as per the agreement, for a $500 or $1,000 chart fee. So look for those things. And then finally, try to get a right of first refusal to buy the practice. It's always nice to ask. If you don't ask, you won't get it. Finally, can you negotiate? You better all be nodding. Yes, you can negotiate. They want you just as badly as you want them.